Okay, I can see we're almost there. We are live.
And okay, yeah, thank you. And then how do you evaluate the growth in parametric insurance?
Okay, thank you. So I just received a message from our tech support. So we can start then. So let me first apologize to our audience for the delay. We just wanted to make sure that we have the live stream working as expected. And without any further delay, I would just like to introduce you to our partners and presenters for this panel, which is from the Software Alliance program. And with that, I'll give the words to you. So who would like to step in?
Thank you, Nicola. Thank you for having us at the Balkan InsurTech Summit. Very excited to be here to introduce Monet, our financial modelling platform, and how we're redefining financial modelling via Monet. We'll just introduce ourselves to you. I'm Sue Berry, Business Development and Account Manager for Software Alliance. I'm joined here with Guy Shepherd, our CEO, and Claire Stone. So if they'd like to introduce themselves.
Hello everybody, my name is Guy Shepherd. As Sue says, I'm CEO of Software Alliance. Been in the life insurance technology space for 25 years, or a bit more actually. So very happy to be speaking to you all today and showing you a little bit about our product, Monet. So over to you, Claire.
Hi, I'm the product manager for Software Alliance. So I work together with both Guy and Sue to make any changes to the product and for the testing of it, but also supporting our clients as well as best we can with their needs.
Thank you, Claire. So what we'll say is we'll go through a slide presentation of the Monet platform. Whilst we do that, if you've got any questions, feel free to contact us via the message app through the conference chat or email myself at sueberry@softwarealliance.net. And we'll pick up some questions at the end and feedback some answers if necessary. Okay, so we've gone through the introductions. Now we'll just introduce the Monet platform. The agenda will then follow just some platform differentiators. We'll talk a little bit about some hot topics at the moment. So IFRS 17 being one of those and modelling in the cloud. And then, like I say, we'll take some questions if necessary at the end. So we're Software Alliance and Monet is our financial modelling platform. Now our philosophy here is to actually focus on modelling. That's the cornerstone of our business. We'd rather proliferate products and solutions and develop the best financial modelling software possible without distractions associated with increasing large portfolio of products. So we want to focus on what we're good at, which is the financial modelling. We then integrate with, well, we say anything. We believe that our customers should be free to select best-in-class technology solutions. So we have an open and extensive architecture, which allows our clients to select best-in-class solutions and integrate with those solutions. So we offer the financial modelling platform, and then we allow our clients to be able to integrate with any other technology provider. The Monet platform is the only service-orientated financial modelling platform, which is agnostic to region, regulatory framework or product design. Monet is the only platform. Like many other providers, we offer the core actuarial applications such as product development, pricing, calculation, analysis and decision support. But also on top of that, we can be used in the front office and the back office space for quotations, claim surrenders and transfer values as well. So Monet models are code-based, they're not library-based, so you only really need to write the functionality that you need, which means that the Monet models are fast and agile, and you're not carting around huge libraries you don't need. So this allows any actuary to program the actuarial part in VB.net themselves. The Monet platform architecture, the foundation is Microsoft.NET framework. The Monet kernel is the core engine of the platform. Now this offers a library of financial mathematics and statistical routines, as well as connectivity to other enterprise platforms. You can then use or consume existing third-party components or libraries that you have and you want to reuse. Monet comes with a range of sample product and feature templates to get familiar with Monet and the accelerate tasks. So we don't actually, or Monet doesn't actually dictate how you build your own models. It just gives you the tools to be able to get familiar and accelerate those tasks. Now, the product reality really is to provide a single calculation engine or API that meets the needs of the entire life insurance enterprise. By that, we're offering a platform which is faster, and that's because of the low barrier to adoption. It's quicker to develop, deploy and run. It's easy to pick up. So we say that anyone who can write a model in Excel can use Monet. It can be integrated, it's reusable, it's accessible, it's portable, it's controlled. There's access to audit, change management and versioning. It's cheaper because there's low cost of ownership, and that's operation and support. And it's also more flexible, accessible, scalable. The idea really is that you can construct your model and calculations using either Monet components, such as the templates, and then deploy them to be consumed anywhere. So what Monet really is a set of reusable modelling components deployed as a service to a range of consumers in the front office or the back office, or even in the actuarial function space, offering the flexibility really, but with also the control which satisfies any auditors. Now, we know that a number of you face business problems that Monet might be able to help with. We know that the requirements for actuarial modelling are increasing all the time. Some of these may resonate with you, for instance, regulatory burden, placing more demands on companies and the models that they use. Models by necessity really becoming more complicated to meet the needs of, say, IFRS 17. Even more sophisticated modelling may now be required. So lots of these problems may sit with you. So we might be able to assist by providing the next opportunity and the next generation for modelling capabilities within the Monet platform. So here is just a few ways of how the Monet platform can help clients respond to the current emerging needs. It's service orientated, that's the architecture, which means that product components work in isolation or together to address ranges of business cases. We offer the best-in-class integration with source or target data stores, business intelligence platforms, etc., and other tools. The governance is built through to the core. So we have permission or role-based access to product features. Source code is controlled and operation activities are audited to satisfy regulators. The models and calculations and data transformation routines can be consumed from any device, i.e. a desktop, a tablet, mobile, browser. So that's on or off premise. So how the Monet platform helps clients deliver an accelerated time to value. It's a familiar user experience, like we mentioned, you should be able to pick it up. I think Claire's quite testament to this when she joined Software Alliance. I think she was up and running within 2 weeks. Is that right, Claire?
Yes, that's right. I developed a model very, very quickly with help, but it took about 2 weeks.
Yeah. So once you, like we said, if you've used a spreadsheet or written a spreadsheet in Excel, then you should be able to pick it up quite quickly. There's lots here that really just shows how the Monet platform works. Guy, did you want to add in some of your experience?
Yeah, I think for me, one of the biggest problems with new platforms is how quickly people can get value from them. Through my sort of say 25 years in the life insurance software space, new platforms come along periodically, but there's a kind of reluctance sometimes to adopt them simply because they're new. I guess what we're trying to do with Monet is give you access to best in class kind of productivity, but without that huge burden of change, which is why this sort of point about, ease of development, as Sue said a couple of times, if you can develop a spreadsheet, we're confident you can develop a Monet model, and many of our customers are a testament to that. Yes, we can help, and yes, there are plenty of consultants who will help you build your first Monet models too. But we're very confident that after a few weeks or months, people are up to speed. But I think the other thing is that you can slot money into your existing enterprise infrastructure. Some of our kind of competitors, what I would now call first generation platforms, from 20 years ago, you had to buy all of the products in the box really to sort of get the features. And obviously each of those features and components came at quite significant cost in some cases. So one of the other sort of key building blocks of Monet is that you can drop models in and integrate it with what you already have. So, if you already have data held in a particular database format, or, your results going into a particular structure, that's easy to kind of to wire up. You don't have to change everything in one go. And that's, from a, as an ex-program manager of change in the insurance space, I know how important that can be. So it's not a big bang. But you don't have to be an actuary, you don't have to be a programmer. A blend of the two is usually where most of our clients are. So they have a variety of staff, looking after and supporting and developing Monet models. Back to you, Sue.
Thank you. So the next slide just demonstrates just how many points of integration we have. We can integrate with subledgers, finance consolidation platforms. You'll see there Power BI, there's data warehouses, business intelligence tools. The list just goes on, really. We haven't had any provider that we haven't been able to integrate with. So here's just a few. So we challenge anyone if they want us to integrate with anyone. So by integrating, so we're leveraging the best-in-class integration capability of Monet. Monet can easily connect to up and downstream data warehouses. Now that's been paramount in lots of clients that we have globally. So you can use any data warehouse Monet can connect to. And it's the only financial modelling that natively supports the Origo messaging standard for insurance contracts. So we mentioned about governance built into the core. So governance and control can be achieved in both the development and the operational worlds based on your own specific requirements. So for instance, the Monet offers source control in the development space and audit control in the operational space. So all user actions are recorded and available for audit purposes, along with lockdown code to prevent the code being changed. By using additional components such as the identity service and the source code control connectors, the end-to-end modelling ecosystem is then less prone to error. So we offer end-to-end lineage of models, so you always know which source code a production model came from. It offers flexibility, but with still the control to satisfy any auditor. So this slide just demonstrates really how fast, or why and how Monet is fast. We mentioned before it's because of the modern and open architecture. It's got a very light footprint, which means it's portable and nimble. By example, we used a real world model and we could process 10 million policies in 5 minutes with 500 cores. And the cost of doing that was, as you can see there, £285. And when we did this a couple of years ago, we did actually try 1 billion policies. I think Microsoft put a stop to that. We couldn't get through 1 billion. But the more cores that you throw at it, the faster it becomes. It can scale linearly. So these are the platform components. The slide really demonstrates Monet platform components in the development work and the operational space. We deliberately have the model development separate for model operations for good control reasons. So everything starts with building models and testing models in Model Development Studio on the left-hand side. And the development process is supported by the other tools that you can see here. So the documentation service, which that documents any Monet model in a very structured way. It also can differentiate between two models and highlight for audit purposes what's changed between the two. So the Monet Development Studio is the starting point. So that comes in the four license editions. You've got standard, professional, enterprise, or a runtime edition. You've got Excel model adapter there in the development box as well. Now that converts any Excel-based model into Monet. And that results in Monet models that can be used as a basis for further model development and then can be consumed as a service using performance and integration potential of the Monet platform. You've got Monet source control, which allows one or more developers to manage changes to the source code throughout the model development the cycle. Now, in the source control, the key features include capture of all code revisions made by one or more developers, reversion to any previous revision of code, analysis or merging of the code created by different developers across different branches. You have Monet worker services, which enable the distribution of large modelling workloads across multiple computers. That's either locally or in the cloud. And then you've got the governance section. It's the conduit between getting both models from the development world into the operational space, and then equally back into the developmental world for debugging purposes. Now this is really powerful because then you've got control and you can see what's being run. Within in the Enterprise Service Manager, you publish the models as a service, bringing them to life. And then you have the Monet Identity Service, which enables access to features of the Monet platform in a controlled and audited based on their ID or role. And that can be connected to Active Directory to provide the complete management of the platform. You've then got you've got Monet Execution Service, which enables any model to be consumed by any batch-orientated client application inside or outside the corporate enterprise. This is where you can throw the thousands of policies, and it will offer results that can be published to the quote service. The quote service allows user-developed models to be consumed on demand by a variety of the client applications, like I said, the websites, mobile applications, or other administration systems or tools. You've got a statement generator, which is an add-on to the quotation service that can be customized to produce pixel perfect quotation letters or statements. And then you've got OMC, which is our Operational Modelling Centre. So once a model has been developed and tested in Model Development Studio, it can then be published as a service package for use within the Operational Modelling Centre as a task. And then OMC, that's where it prevents model code being changed. It's locked down. The only changes that are allowed are data assumptions and runtime parameters, ensuring a very controlled environment.
I should say that the session 2 and session 3 are demonstrations of the development tools and the operational tools, respectively. So we'll come on to that after this session.
So Monet Cloud Portal, the Monet Cloud Portal that's offers development services provided in the cloud. So you don't have to have Monet on-premise. Monet can run in the cloud. Guy, did you want to go through some of the pros of running Monet in the cloud?
Yeah, so I guess our take on cloud modeling is slightly different, or I suppose slightly broader than some of the competitor platforms. I guess the obvious use of cloud is for performance and scaling out, and as Sue covered on one of the other slides, we can certainly do that, and we've scaled out to to thousands of cores and reduced run times, as expected. But we've taken it a bit further. So what we're able to do using our cloud modeling services is basically provide the whole development environment as well. So, if you only have sporadic need for the software, or you want to get a development partner involved, which one of our clients does, then what we can do through the cloud portal is you can spin up whatever parts of the Monet platform you require, and it's up to you what you consume. Obviously, you pay for it on a pay-as-you-go basis, so you can consume all the bits or just a few of the bits. It's entirely up to you. But the real benefit is that you can run the models that are built by one of your development partners, and you can all collaborate on this thing. And then once they're ready to use, then you can scale out and use the operational components that give you what you need. And then when you're finished, you can shut them all down, and you don't pay for them any longer. So what we're trying to do here is sort of give people a lot more flexibility. Monet, we talk about Monet being very flexible, and it is in terms of building models, but we're offering this other, I guess, layer, or this other tier of flexibility by basically allowing you to consume and run the software as and when you want to. Because, I know most customers have a very, what I would call lumpy kind of usage pattern. There are big sort of periods of time where you probably don't do a huge amount of modeling, whereas at sort of year end or quarter end or month end or whatever your frequency of reporting is, there's a lot of activity. So the idea is for the cloud services is that you can respond to those kind of different requirements, in kind. But we also allow existing customers to use what we call the bring your own license basis. So again, if they only want to use infrastructure and sort of scale out the platforms, but they don't want to have the cost of doing that on premise, then they're able to apply their existing Monet licenses just to infrastructure. And then they just pay for the extra infrastructure they use. So we think it's a sort of best in class solution. To be honest with you, it's won a couple of awards already. Just to give customers that ultimate flexibility. So it's quite exciting times in terms of what's possible with cloud.
Thank you, Guy. We mentioned before about some hot topics, so IFRS 17 being one of those. So within Monet, we offer an environment for models to be developed, tested and run to meet the immediate needs, such as project cash flows, calculate Solvency II and current IFRS reporting. But now these can be extended to meet the needs of the IFRS 17, such as the calculation of the contractual service margin and risk adjustment metrics. Now this can be achieved through the IFRS 17 and on how you can craft your own IFRS 17 solution using Monet. Now, the IFRS 17, call it IFRS Assess Enterprise, it's an accelerator tool so that helps insurers understand the impact of IFRS 17 on their business. It's powered by Monet and it provides unrivaled governance, audit capability and performance to support the operational reporting and deliver on the IFRS 17 requirements. So it's already being used by a number of our clients who took a low impact or a light touch approach, and they extended their models using the Monet solution. So the key really was for the clients to separate their core calculation functionality into reusable components in Monet and use the core elements of the CSM and risk adjustments. So they can calculate those through the Monet platform and then be fed into a general ledger or their own general ledgers to meet the needs of the IFRS 17. And again, it offers control and end-to-end governance throughout. So what we do is a demonstration of how this can be achieved. But this slide just demonstrates just how you can obtain the policy data and purpose it through the Monet project to produce the cash flows, and then you can use those cash flows to pump back through the Monet core calculation engine to get your required risk adjustments or contractual service margin calculations. Okay, so like I said there, I think we'll move on now to some demonstrations. So thank you. Like I say, all the questions can be sent over to myself or through the conference chat. Thank you very much for listening.
Okay, well, thank you very much. I think we have a few questions. I'm going to read them for you. I guess most of them are already being answered during the presentation, but can probably use the opportunity to elaborate a little bit. So the first one is, which is your most successful market, and whether you have any plans to extend to the Balkans or any Balkan country?
So we have clients globally. Actually, there has been quite a lot of penetration in Russia at the moment. Now, this is because the central banks' initiatives are placing a huge burden on customers, saying that in Excel, Microsoft Excel isn't robust enough to calculate cash flows. So they are coming to us to embed the Monet platform into their daily routine. So, so Russia's at the moment very keen to explore the Monet platform. We are also looking at USA. We've also got lots of interest in the UK as well, but we can operate with, well, anywhere. We often work with partners on the ground if we haven't got a local presence. So we work with partners in Russia at the moment. We work with partners globally to offer that support to clients if we aren't on the ground there. But everything that we do, we have online support, and we can provide second to none customer service to all of our clients.
Thank you very much. So moving to the next one is, what is the pricing model of Mo.net?
So Monet comes in a number of editions. So it can be, what we do is we offer a runtime license, for instance, to be able to run a Monet model. It's subscription based and annual renewals, and you can increase or decrease at any time.
Thank you very much. So the next question on our public chat is, do you have any available integrations with other software or platforms? I'm afraid we don't hear you. If you can ask it to repeat.
Could you repeat the question? Sorry.
So the question is, do you have any available integrations with other software or platforms?
Yeah, I think I popped up a slide that showed you the partners that we have integrated with. I can just read out a couple to you now. So we've got there. So we can integrate. Well, we've said we can integrate with any platform: Oracle, SQL Server, other business intelligence tools, data warehouses, finance consolidations, general ledgers, sub ledgers, mobiles, Quick, Tableau, Excel, ESBs, HPCs. Any other policy administration systems, Python, web. There is quite a few ESGs, RSGs. I could go on.
I think it might also be worth saying that in terms of if you're using other financial modelling platforms or systems, that we could sort of integrate from those in a perspective of bringing in the output from them. If you wanted to then sort of continue your calculations sort of using Monet. So for example, if you wanted to use it for Solvency II, but you've done your cash flow valuation elsewhere, or for IFRS 17, and again, you've done sort of your cash flow valuation elsewhere, we've got the ability to bring in the output, because we can bring in inputs in many different forms, as we'll show you during one of the demos that we're going to move on to.
If they had any specific integration needs, they could always come and ask and get in touch, and we can find a way.
Okay, thank you very much. That actually links very well to the next question, which is, do you support the integrations, or who is in best position to create them or develop them?
Guy, do you want to take this on?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the integrations, are sort of available out of the box. You don't have to do anything sort of specific. I mean, Claire might touch on a couple during her demonstrations in a minute. We also offer bespoke sort of, if you like, engineering services if it's something that you've not seen before. It's quite unusual. We have done it. We did it a couple of years ago with one of our biggest clients who were integrating with a very specific enterprise service bus that we hadn't seen before. So there was a piece of work, to build the integration points between Monet and that enterprise service bus. But, that only took a couple of weeks to do. So, as Sue said, we're sort of up for the challenge, really. The platform has been built to be deliberately open. It's almost a reaction to our competitors who, have very closed, very tightly coupled platforms. So, it's the only way we're going to, really sort of change things is to open things up. So, in terms of support, I mean, it's down to kind of usually a combination of us, the client, and potentially the third party if it's a specific third party platform. But most of these things, once they're done, they're pretty robust. I mean, that client I was talking about, they haven't haven't come back to us after 2 years of using this in a very, very live, very kind of fast-moving environment, and the integration point has been very, very, very robust. So but it's really down to the kind of the specific kind of needs and specific challenge and the specific integration point and how it's been done. But I think we've got some really good sort of, I guess, use cases that help demonstrate that we kind of know what to do and how to do it.
Oh, thank you very much. I think we have a couple of more questions. So the last one on the chat that I can see on the platform is there a demo available, or how can we request one?
Watch this space.
Coming up next.
Yeah, coming up next.
Okay. So the question on the what I can see on our YouTube channel is how Balkans markets are recognized.
How the Balkans markets are recognized. Not quite sure what that's getting at. I mean, the Balkans for us is actually one of our kind of strategic targets. As Sue said, we've done a lot of business recently in Russia. We've got lots of presence elsewhere in the world, as Sue's touched on, but we thought that the Balkans might provide us some other useful use cases and some new clients. So I guess we're very interested to talk to clients in terms of understanding their needs, anything specific, any constraints they have in the marketplace, any issues they have with their existing tools, and how we can potentially make the journey from existing kind of legacy software to Monet easier for them. And likewise, we're always looking for partners, who can work with us to help, both build models, deploy models, and support models. So that's why we're here, I guess. We'd like to sort of introduce you to Monet, but we'd also like to get to know you a bit better as well.
Okay, thank you very much. So, keep in mind there is some delay between our actual talk and the stream. So if there are any follow-up questions, I will let you know. But that's all that I can see for now.
Okay, should we switch over to the second part of the presentation then?
Sure, go ahead.
Thank you.
I'll just get it up. Bear with me a second. Right, try this.
I'll just mention again that if anyone wants to get in touch, then they can do so. Send us over an email and we'll be happy to have a conversation. Okay, over to you.
Which get this one, Sue? So this is the sort of second of our three sessions. So this one's going to include quite a lot of demonstration of the software. It won't go hugely deep into software just because of time, but we'll try and give you a good overview of the development side of the Monet platform. So I'll rattle through the first few slides, which are just a pick up from the previous deck. So it's the same people. Likewise, if you've got any questions, use the conference chat or email Sue afterwards. So we'll talk about the sort of, I guess, how you build models with Monet. Model development piece, some key concepts that will go through in the demo. And then Claire's got a number of topics that she's going to go through, again, with model development in mind. And then there's a subsequent session after this one, which is talking more about operational modeling. So hopefully these two demonstration sessions will fit together quite neatly. So there's just a couple of slides on setting the scene for the development demonstrations. As Steve said, the company focus is modeling, and by having focus on modeling, we therefore need to integrate with everything. So again, integration will come up time and again, both in the development sort of demonstrations and in terms of the operational demonstrations. So just to recap, this is the Monet platform. So as I say, it's used across the world. It's regulatory agnostic, it's region agnostic, supports any type of life insurance product. It can scale, as we said in the previous session.
So I think we're just going to switch over and the sharing of the slides, because we think it's affecting your connection. You're coming over quite stuttery and you're talking where you weren't before.
Okay. Well, that is. So what are you going to do? Is Sue going to share?
Yeah, I'll take over the sharing of the slides. If you can just.
Sorry about that.
Okay.
Can't handle me talking and sharing.
No. Hope it does for me.
Okay, can everybody see the screen now?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Sorry about that. Right. Can't drive now. Can you just go back a slide? Let me just finish that one. So I guess the key takeaway from this in terms of leading into the demonstrations is, as Sue said, Monet models are code-based. So the code you write is VB.NET, which is a very close cousin of VBA, which you would use in Excel or Word. But, you know, there are a number of accelerators as well. You know, there are a number of standard templates and models for specific products and use cases, which Claire will probably touch on as well. So, you know, the idea is, as I said in the previous session, you know, we're trying to get people into and across to Monet as quickly as possible with as limited of upheaval as possible. So hopefully that will come through in the demonstration. Okay, Sue? So just to recap on this one very briefly. So, you know, hopefully through the demonstrations, we'll try and sort of illustrate how each of these 5 cornerstones of the platform will come out. So in terms of how easy it is to develop models, you know, how integrated the model platform is with the rest of the enterprise, how controlled model development is. So remember, this is a focus on development. Obviously, the cheapness and cost of ownership and cost of support won't necessarily be immediately obvious through the demonstration, but rest assured that, you know, most of our customers only have a couple of the development licenses, and then they use a number of other sort of lower cost licenses to do operational runs. And hopefully the kind of the last element of it, which is, you know, we think the platform's better, you know, will be pretty obvious to you. I think we can probably skip that slide, actually, just get in the interest of getting into the demo. So just very quickly, there's a couple of sort of concepts that, you know, probably won't be that important for this sort of session, but I just wanted to illustrate again how Monet sort of models are constructed. So to start with, you know, the sort of, if you like, the container for the Monet models is a project. So the project contains everything, you know, about your model or models. So a project contains one or more models. So you could have a number of related models, or you could have models and, you know, what we call submodels. So in each model, as Claire will very shortly demonstrate, has 3 components: inputs, parameters, and functions. I'll let Claire illustrate what those are, but broadly they're describing source data, you know, parameters of the calculations and the calculations themselves. There's then a concept of tables. The tables are generally standing data, things like mortality tables or assumption tables or interest rate tables, things like that. And then these come together as tasks, and there are different types of tasks. Again, I will show you some of these, which bring together models, you know, and tables, and then you can basically control how the models interact, either in isolation or with each other. It's entirely down to you. So you can do very simplistic projection runs, projection tasks, or you can do some very elaborate group projection tasks. So this is where you can sort of put loops and add various business rules and business logic into the control of model operations. So you can have, for example, an asset model that runs, and then a liability model which runs, and then you can have a sort of model which sits around the edges and sort of looks at management actions between the 2 different models. So you can do some pretty sophisticated things quite quickly. And then around the edges, as you can see there, we've got integration with other libraries. So if you've got some favorite routine written in something like R or Python that does something very clever, then rather than having to recode that in VB.NET, which obviously you could do, you know, you can simply just loop it into the model calculations directly. So there's no recoding required. And as we've said, you know, a number of times already, you know, in terms of talking to the outside world, Monet is able to read and write from, a huge number of data sources and data targets. The ones we commonly see are things like Excel, obviously, but more increasingly SQL Server and Oracle and things like that. So that's both for inputs, parameters, and indeed results. So I think that's it's a focus. Just bear in mind on the left-hand side of this picture. That's really all I wanted to say. So I think it's now over to yes.
Okay, I'll just share my screen. Okay, hopefully you're now seeing my screen.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna, hopefully I'll bring to life some of what's been talked about. So this is inside our model development studio, which is the component of the platform to develop models in, as the name says. In here, we have the concept of a project. So rather than it being a model as a whole, it's a project as a whole, and then you have models separately. So on this left-hand side are the models. This is our a unit-linked model project. Sorry, just as an example. The models within it you can see are on the left-hand side. We've got a top model and then sub-models below it for different elements of calculations. We tend to say to people it's quite handy to split out your calculations into models, and the code is also very reusable and easily reusable between models. So within a specific model, which you, in terms of developing it, you would add a new model very simply. So you can just click this button here, it will give you a new model down here that you name and off you go. Within a model, as has already been said, you have inputs, parameters and functions. So you can see that they're up here. I'm just clicking between them. So for this top model, this is showing me all the inputs that relate to it. The flat parameters also relate, and then the functions that bring those together. So in terms of inputs and building a model, you literally just add a new input here, and then it will bring you up. I'll just show you. Bring you up a new item. You tell it what type of data type it is, and then give it a sort of a default value. So what we're doing here is building the model without any reference to the outside world. We don't need to worry about the policies that can be run through it at this stage. We just build it up sort of internally, reference to itself, and then worry about the data at a later stage. Get rid of that one. I don't actually want it. So they're inputs, so data items that you would feed in. As I said, also parameters you would bring in here. So any sort of assumptions that you want, you will add in exactly the same way as an input and assign a value to it. You can also bring in tables of parameters here. So you can see here that there are tables that have been brought in. And so I'll show you that in just a second. And then you would, once you've got your inputs and your parameters, you build them up into functions here. So with your functions, you again add a new function if you want to bring it in, and you choose what you want to call it. We've got different types of functions. So these ones with a little fx, they're all the time-dependent functions, and then the ones with the pin are the static functions. And there are also some specific Monet special functions as well for sort of initializing parameters and models, and sort of bringing in terms of the models. And there's not enough time to go into it all now. Where you have submodels below, you have also a concept of dynamic submodels where they can be generated dynamically from data or other items. So once you've got, you add in a function that you want, and then you can just put whatever code that you want for your function in here. We suggest to people that they don't put too many lines for each function and they split them up rather, because it's just easier to keep track of and see what's going on. And within here, as well as within inputs and parameters, we've also got these folders. Now that's really just for ease of sort of keeping things together and in a neat fashion. But where the functions are concerned, if you put your functions into different folders, then when you run the model, you will actually receive the outputs out in order within these folders as well. So it just helps keep everything fairly neat and tidy. When you're wanting to put your code in, so we've already said it's VB.NET based. I'm just trying to find one that's got a bit more in it. Looking here, submodels. So you can see down here in this box is the code behind the particular function. And we've got IntelliSense in here. So as you type, for example, it will give you ideas of what you might want to put in, including all of the inputs and parameters, etc., that you've already got coded in. So different items, and you just accept them as you wanted. And when you've finished doing what you want to, then you just can test the code here and accept it in here. And once you've got your model built up, you can then just run it from the model side using this results button, and you immediately get some results through. I just run the actual that model. And then, as well as giving you your results, it's showing you here all of the inputs that were fed in for that particular instance of running it, and the parameters as well, the tables that it was referring to. And then down here, you've got your constant value, so constant function values. And then here are all the time dependent values. So just going back slightly, I talked about parameters and bringing in tables. So that's in the table section here. These are all the different tables that have been brought in for this specific model. So, and you can bring in tables in any format that you want to. So you may have a table that's in sort of held in text file. It may be in a database. It may be in Excel. Any of those are fine to bring in here. You just navigate to the source of the table, and then you bring it in. If you want to bring in a table that's held in a data warehouse, all you need to do is have a data connection set up within the tables area, and then you navigate to that to bring in your table. If it's an Excel table, it just needs to have a named range associated with it, and then you use that to pick the table up. So in this case, a named range is tab, and it's going away and finding that particular named range for this table. I just briefly mentioned there in terms of a data connection. If you need to connect to a database or data warehouse, you set up a data connection here, depending on what you're connecting to. And then once you've got that set up, it's there within your model project for you to reference. As I mentioned, in terms of models and model code, when developing, it's all very easily reusable. So one sort of a good code of practice is, if you know you're going to have different sort of submodels that you want to build, but they're going to look very similar, you would build up a core model, and then you can just make copies of that and then reuse them. So any model that you've got here, you can just do copy and paste, and it will give you an exact copy of that. And we've also got what we call inheritance functionality, where you can say that you want a particular submodel or model to inherit the functionality of another one, and then it will immediately just have all of those items, and then you choose which ones you want to overwrite and change. So that's much easier than building up all of your models from scratch there. They can have those dependencies, or you could make a copy and then it not be related at all. You make the changes that you want to. once you've got all of your parameters in there, you can create what's called a basis. So that would be used within the task when you actually want to run it and attach some data. So here we've run the model just from the inside and seen that side of things. So the next step is to add data to the model and then run it run through using all of that data. So we've got here different types of tasks we can add in. So these with the green arrows here are what we call individual projection tasks, where you add your file of data points and then simply run those through. You select which model you want to run that through and run that. In terms of attaching the data to the task, again, you've got the complete flexibility about what type of data you want to bring in. So it can again be data from a data warehouse, from Excel, a text file, an access database if you want to. So you've got the options here, and you can change that. You can run the task with one type of data, and then next time, if you've got your data in a different format, you can again run it with that format of data. Same applies in terms of having a data collection set up for data warehouse compared and having a named range for your Excel data. So in this case, you can see it's Excel data being brought in with this. And we've got sort of different ones. So this is an example. We've got a few model points set up here to run through this particular task. There are other types of tasks as well. So what we call a group projection. Now that is purely code-based and enables you to then run through an individual projection or multiple individual projections if you want to, just going through the code. You could also use this to change input files if you wanted to, or to run, as this one's doing, run through many different scenarios using run manager type functionality. And the other types of tasks that we've got are also a data conversion task, which is where you, if you wanted to, could bring in data that might not be in the right format for your actual model to run through, and then you would convert it using a data conversion model that you also build sort of on top. And that will bring in a file of model point data and then output a file of model point data for you to then further use in another run. Also in here, if you're using sort of group projections or the code behind individual ones, are what we call code snippets, so ideas for different code items that you might want to use to give the developers just that little help in terms of what they might put in for the code for the common uses of group projection tasks. As we mentioned in presentations, it's also possible to use external components and third-party libraries. And there's just an example of one here that can be used. So you would sort of separately have any extra functions that you want written here in a component, and then you can just refer to that within your function that you're developing. This example here is just where we were developing with reference to an Excel spreadsheet where there are a lot of VLOOKUPs in there. So rather than sort of doing some complicated way of coding that, we've just set up functions as to how to handle all the different VLOOKUPs so that we can then just code it as if it were a VLOOKUP for the relevant arguments in here, and then refer to it easily each time within the code in the model. Bases I touched on. So for your different tasks that you're setting up, you might want to have use a different sort of collection of the assumptions that you're bringing in, and that you do using a basis. So these bases are just a collection of all the different parameters that there are for all the different models, and then you can use the custom flag to then change what they might be set to. For example, this one you can see the funding flag, the funding flag has been changed and overwritten. And then within your actual task, so for example, you would set what basis it is that you want to use here for your task. You've got the flexibility to do that. You can then run your task through separately. I'm just going to run a single scenario here, so you can just run a selected record, and you can do any record that you want. And then once you've done that, so either if you run a selected record here or on the model side, you've got debugging within the model, which allows you to just work through the calculations and how they were built up, but using the values that have been calculated here. So just going further down to some of the calculations here. You may have a case though where there's a lot of calculations and formulae that are being shown, so it's too many to be able to sort of navigate back and forth through them. In which case, if you just click on where you want to start with your debugging and then do precedence, what it does is narrows down just the items that fed into the calculation for that formula, and then down on the left hand side as well, you can navigate down through that and it will show you the items that went in there, and you sort of build it up as you go along, so you can follow through the calculation. That's quite powerful. I've mentioned about integrating in terms of the data. As we've said, you can integrate with data warehouse, Excel, Access, text files, sort of you name it, and any type of data warehouse as well. I think the final item to really cover here is looking back at the model governance that you get from carrying this out. So in terms of developing, this particular model is what we call under source control. So we can see the evidence of that here, where I add my model in to a repository. I commit the code there, and then any changes that I make, I can carry out further commits, and they will be stored. But I also have the ability to navigate back to a previous version of the model here, so I can restore that from my repository. I can compare between commits to see what's changed, and so that, like I said, I could roll back the code if I wanted to, if I've discovered that a mistake had been made, and go back from there and then continue development if I needed to. This at the moment is just personal source control, so I'm the only one that can sort of work on this and see it, but you also with Monet have the ability to have collaborative source control as well, so you can have several developers working on the same project, and they can just take their own sort of copies and branches to work on, and then merge the changes that they make in as well. So it allows that collaborative development. There is also, for every item within Monet itself, so whether it's a function, a parameter, sort of a task item, you get the information about it in terms of who modified it and when they last modified it. And then you also have a unique GUID for the project when it's saved, that you can use to refer to it. And sorry, I should have said in terms of source control, when you do those commits, you've got a unique commit ID as well that you can use to refer to sort of that version of the code that's been developed. So it can be sort of completely controlled and is sort of auditable as well. There. Sue also did mention about identity service. So Model Development Studio can be linked up to that, so that developers can have control over sort of who's developing, and between developers and users or testers as well. You can give them different access and different sort of permissions either through Active Directory or not. The final item that Sue mentioned with that I'm going to show you and talk about is the documentation service. So that can be used at the click of a button. You can create a set of documentation of your project. It's not necessarily what you would sort of completely give to the auditors, but it's a very good starting point and takes very minimal time for that. So this is the documentation service component. And as Sue mentioned, you can either use it to just document a single project or to compare two different projects. You would give it sort of title and information. You choose here which items or elements of the project you want to be included in the documentation. And if you're comparing, you can choose whether you exclude or include the unchanged comparison entries as well. And then you simply click generate, which I'm not going to do here just for time purposes. But that's for later. I've got a couple that I created previously, which I'm just going to show you. So for the single documentation, you get contents down. This has got some diagrams, so it's very small, I appreciate. These are some diagrams of how the different parts of the models and projects fit together. And you get more detailed ones as you move down. So this is telling me the different models that there are within there. That's a slightly larger sort of diagram of things fitting together. And then for each model, I've got my inputs shown here. There are my parameters and then functions and the summary of them, and actually even the function code if I want that in there. And for this particular project, I'd say it probably takes maybe 30 seconds to produce this documentation. So it's really not very long at all. The larger the project, the longer it will take, but compared with actually manually producing it, it's really no time at all. And then this one is just to show you what gets produced in terms of the comparison. So you can easily see what's changed between models. This is just showing, and it's only listing out. I've only asked it to list out items where they're different. So you just see sort of tables of that. It's really quite handy for that sort of comparison. Like I said, if you're using source control, you can also carry out comparisons between the different versions that you've committed as well. So I think that was all that I was going to show you in this particular demonstration. It's time to go see if there are any questions on that side of things.
Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you very much. So I've been checking the channels. I don't see any questions currently pending.
Okay.
So with that said, I believe we can just open the room for any final thoughts or statements.
Yeah, so we've got a further presentation and demonstration, further functionality as well.
Well, thank you very much then. So let me just share the screen for a minute so we can see each other. So thank you very much for your presentation and for being here with us today. I wish you a very good day. And yeah, cheers.
Thank you.